Hello again. I was surprised to see Harold Shipman trending on Twitter today, since he has of course been dead these 20 years. It appears there are calls for a statue of Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp to be erected at the football club's home ground, and the proposed image looks eerily like Harold Shipman, who famously murdered hundreds of his patients. You can see this statue in the thumbnail to this video. The tweets about the supposed resemblance between Jurgen Klopp and Harold Shipman were all humorous, and it struck me not for the first time that Shipman is nowhere near as reviled as other and lesser British murderers. You can't really imagine people making jokes about the supposed resemblance of some football manager to Ian Brady, can you? That would be considered in very poor taste. This sheds light upon how we really feel about the elderly, as opposed to how we claim to feel. Ask people to name the very worst serial killers in British history, and you'll find that names such as Myra Hindley crop up, along with Jack the Ripper or Fred and Rosemary West. Harold Shipman, though, was a British serial killer who single-handedly murdered 20 times as many people as those other four murderers put together. The rogue doctor who took the lives of over 400 people never seems to be mentioned in anybody's list of wicked and ruthless killers. This is, at least on the face of it, more than a little odd. After all, he's not just the worst murderer in British history, but killed far more victims than even anybody in America, the home of serial killing. The reason for this neglect is simple and revealing. Harold Shipman, a much-loved GP, killed only old people. Dr. Shipman has not attracted the opprobrium of people like Myra Hindley, who was convicted of just a measly 2 murders. Her victims, though, were children, and by and large we are fond of children. This is the devastatingly simple if unpalatable truth. We don't rate Harold Shipman high in the annals of evil because he only killed the elderly. Many of us have a sneaking sympathy for the man, if not outright admiration. Here was somebody who could not abide at any cost whiny old folk, and his job brought him regularly into contact with all too many of them. Little wonder that he began disposing of the aged and decrepit nuisances painlessly and humanely through overdoses of morphine. Most of us might be tempted to pursue a similar course of action if our jobs entailed meeting old people so often, always assuming that we had the opportunity and means to do so, of course. There can be few people stuck with cantankerous old relations who would not secretly be pleased if some public-spirited person like Dr. Shipman showed up at their parents' or grandparents' house one day, offering to give them one of his special injections. We would probably lend a hand, saying, "Come on, Mum, Dr. Shipman's come all this way just to see you. Roll up your sleeve and let him give you one of his strengthening injections." This is why we do not rank Dr. Shipman very highly when thinking about the worst of serial killers and mass murderers. As I said, Myra Hindley was only convicted of killing 2 people, and yet we remember her as being far worse than Harold Shipman. This is because Hindley's victims were children. In general, people like children. They enjoy watching them at play, hearing their voices and laughter, even seeing them walk down the street on their way to nursery or school. Children are agreeable to encounter. Killing them is plainly wrong. The same can hardly be said for old people. Watching them shuffle along the pavement is a profoundly depressing sight. Quite apart from the fact that they are not nearly as aesthetically pleasing to look at as small children, they are a grim reminder of our own fate in all too few years. As they are now, so too will you be in a short while. That creaking old fossil picking its way painstakingly across the landscape is a premonition of what is in store for us all. We find them annoying as they fumble for their bus passes and block our way when attempting to board a bus. They irritate us by announcing their age for no apparent reason to a queue of people behind them in the supermarket. When old people say, "I'm 92, as if this was something to be proud of. They are always getting in our way and saying and doing things which we would not expect from a normal person. It is then little wonder that we are relaxed and not all that judgmental about Dr. Shipman and his murder of so many old folk, and on the other hand, fiercely disapproving of Ian Brady and Myra Hindley. I'm pretty sure that if Myra Hindley were to be seen and to resemble some statue or other, she wouldn't end up on trending on Twitter because people were making jokes about the apparent resemblance. That would be considered monumentally tacky rather than amusing.